morning. This is Lori from At the Lake Quilt Shop. This morning I'm going to show you how to do a block on point. So we're going to start with a block like this, which is 5.5 inches, and it will end up to be this block, which, see, now it's actually on point is what it's called, and it'll end up to be an 8.5 inch block. So we're going to start with a square, and then we're going to cut it in half just once, diagonally. So then we'll end up with 2 of these. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to lay this on we're going to start on the top. We're going to lay this on top, and we're going to have it so that there's the same amount of point on each end. So it looks like it's even on both sides. And if you need to, you can fold this in half and find your center. I usually just do a finger press so that I have a little bit of a line there. Probably can see it better on this side there. And then I can actually do the same on this block. Just take this block and fold it in half and do a finger crease. And that way when you put those two pieces together, you have that line. I get the right one. I did. You have that line there, and that way they actually meet. So I just usually put one pin in the center, but if you need to put more pins on, that's fine too. And what I do find is that you can sew it on both sides. I mean, it doesn't matter, but for me it's easier to see, you know, where everything goes when you're coming off and on the points if you do it on this side. Plus you can keep your seams the direction that they were ironed initially. So we're going to sew that on actually. So we're going to make sure that we do our 1/4 inch, and then we're going to sew that on all the way across. And I usually go right off the points all the way off, just because it's easier that way to make sure that you stay on your 1/4 inch. Okay, so now I've sewed it across, and now I have this piece like this. So I'm going to finger press that out. So now what you want to do is not sew it on this side next, you want to sew it on the opposite side next. So I'm going to take another one of my triangles, like so. And again, if you want to fold it in half, and you know, whether you finger press it or you can actually put a pin in that center piece where the line is, so that you have marked it that way. So you can always put a pin in there. And then again, if you need to fold this in half and press that or put the pin in there so that you have a mark there. Or you can use actually one of the ironable markers, but if you're doing it with pins, put both those pins together, line them up, then pull the one out, use it to pin the actual block, and then pull the other one out underneath. And now you have the same thing. You have your points off from each end, the even amount, and then you're going to go back to the sewing machine, and you're going to start off the point, and you're going to sew all the way through and off the other point. So that way, like I said, you seem to keep your 1/4 inch more straight. So see, I've actually sewed all the way off that end. So now I'm going to take my pin out. Again, I'm going to finger press this for right now because I don't need to go to the iron just yet. So now I have the pieces one on each side. So now I'm going to take my 3rd triangle, and again, you want to find the center because this time, you know, you're going to be sewing over the 2 points also. So you want to find the center of both of them. And the good part about this is you will kind of be able to tell, and again, if you want to pin it, that's fine in the center. You'll be able to see that there will be a little bit off on each point on each side. See, there's a little bit sticking out on this side and a little bit sticking out on this side. And when you lay that down on the sewing machine, your needle's going to come right in between that V there. And that way you know that you've got it laid the right way. And again, you know, it's up to you which side you sew, But again, it's probably easier to have this on the back side and sewing on the front so you can sew your seams, see your seams so that they're laying flat. And it's a little bit easier to see, you know, if, and my sewing machine came unthreaded again. A little bit easier to see where you're going to actually be coming out and starting if you flip it over, because then you'll know for sure that your points are sticking out the right way. And of course, we're not going to be threading easy this morning, just because we want it to be. There we go. Nope, that didn't work either. So anyway, we're going to go from there. So we've actually now have sewed this one on, and then we go back and sew this one on. So now see how the difference is? So when you started, you had, you know, say this wasn't on here, you'd have this block that was just laying there in the center, and now it's actually, so it was square to start with, and now it actually is what's called on point. So you can turn any, like if you have, say you fussy cut something, which means you cut a specific area out of a piece of fabric that you want. Say it's a little lion or a little bear or something that you want off a piece of fabric, and you put it in the center, and it's not a piece that looks good this way, but it looks great this way. So now if you make the block like this, and then you put these triangles on the center, or on each side, I mean, your center now becomes the direction that it was actually cut, so it looks correct. So, and these are actually, there's a whole quilt made out of these. It's called a chandelier quilt, and it's beautiful, actually. It looks, like I said, they're all hanging down, almost like beads hanging down. And if you change these colors to different colors like this one is, you know, you can really see them. If your background is a little less active here, if it was like a white, you could really see the center and these little diamonds. And now, like I said, they went from squares here to now they're diamonds. So see, that's the other thing. You can create so many different things by just adding these little triangle pieces on the corners of your block. So it's just another thing to try, and it's not hard. And like I said, and then what you're going to do after you're all done, you're going to have all these pieces that are on the edges that will be sticking out. And so what you're going to do is you're going to actually square them up, and to do the way we did it with the 5.5 inch squares, and the turns into an 8.5, you have so little to clean up. You actually probably have a little point on each side, and then when you flip it open, there's these little things that would be the long pieces that would be sticking out. I've already trimmed it on this one. But yeah, so just trim that extra away back to your 1/4 inch seam, because that makes less bulk when you're putting your quilt together, and for the quilter when they're going over these seams, there's not that big chunk sitting there that's extra that you really didn't need in there. So that's, yeah, so that's showing you how to put a block on point. So hopefully that gives you some ideas, and if you have any more questions, send me a message. All right, thank you. Have a great day.